All right, let's talk about the end game of an audit. We're diving into the final, and honestly, the most critical stage, the completion phase. This is the moment of truth, where every piece of evidence has to fit together perfectly before an auditor puts their name and their reputation on the line.
So just imagine, you've spent months, maybe even longer, out in the field. All the testing, the interviews, the number crunching, it's all done. But you're not at the finish line yet, not even close. This final phase is a high-stakes gauntlet you have to run to make absolutely sure nothing was missed. So the big question is, are you really ready to sign? Let's find out what it takes.
Okay, so this diagram right here, this is going to be our guide for the journey. I know, it might look a little complicated at first glance, but trust me, it lays out every single critical checkpoint an auditor needs to hit. We're going to use this to walk through the entire final review step by step.
So here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll cover the big picture review process itself. Then we're going to look backwards at all the evidence we've already gathered. After that, we'll look forwards to scout out any potential risks on the horizon. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with one last holistic review before that finish line.
First up, the gauntlet itself. Now, I want you to think of this whole process like a pilot's final pre-flight check. You're not just flicking a few switches. You're doing a comprehensive review to make sure the entire plane is sound and ready for takeoff. It's that serious.
Let's zoom in on our roadmap. Right there, smack in the middle, you see the audit completion review. This isn't just another box. It's the heart of the entire operation. It's the engine room that powers everything else we're about to do. So what does this review actually involve? Well, it really boils down to a four-step sequence. First, auditors do a final high-level analysis, just to make sure the whole story the numbers are telling makes sense. Then they get into the weeds, checking for compliance with all the rules. After that, it's all about the paperwork. The checklists and documentation have to be perfect, and it all leads to that one massive question. Do we have enough good, solid evidence to stand behind our final decision? Okay, with that framework set, it's time for the auditor to look in the rearview mirror. They need to go back and confirm all the evidence they've collected and really lock down everything that management has claimed throughout the audit. And if you look at our map, you'll see two really important parts of this backward-looking review: getting written representations from the company's management and taking a hard look at any uncorrected misstatements. Let's break those down. So, written representations. What on earth are those? Well, think of it as a formal "we promise" letter from management. It's often just called a rep letter, and in it, management officially states in writing that they've given the auditor everything. They haven't hidden anything, and they stand by the financial statements. It is an absolutely crucial piece of the puzzle. Now, this is where auditors get to be detectives. Throughout the audit, they keep a running list of what they call uncorrected misstatements. These are small errors they find that, on their own, don't seem like a big deal. You know, a $5,000 expense here, a $10,000 revenue error there. Who cares, right? Wrong. The critical part is adding them all up, because what looks like a few small puddles can suddenly become a flood. Together, these tiny errors can become a material problem that could totally mislead a user of the financial statements. All right, so we've checked the rearview mirror, we've looked backwards. But you know, a truly great audit doesn't just look at the past. It also looks forward, through the windshield, to spot any potential dangers or risks that could affect the company after the year has already closed. And our trusty map points us to two big ones here: assessing the company as a going concern and digging into subsequent events. This is all about making sure the report we issue today isn't made totally irrelevant by something that's about to happen tomorrow.
Going concern. It sounds a little formal, right? But all it really means is answering one simple question. Is this company going to be in business a year from now? It's a fundamental assumption, but auditors can't just take it for granted. They have to actively hunt for any red flags that might suggest the company is in trouble.
Okay, this next one, subsequent events, is an area that can really trip people up. We're talking about things that happen after the year-end date, but before the auditor signs the report. And there are two types. Adjusting events mean you found out something new about a situation that already existed at year-end, so you have to go back and actually adjust the numbers. But non-adjusting events are things that happen completely after year-end. For those, you don't change the numbers, but you do have to disclose them in the notes. Getting this distinction right is absolutely vital. All right, deep breath. We've looked back at the evidence. We've peered into the future for risks. Now it is time for the final, grand finale, putting every single piece of this giant puzzle together for one last look. So what's the last piece of this massive puzzle?
If you look at our map, it's this box called Other Information. This is where the auditor has to stop being just a numbers person and start being a critical reader of the entire annual report.
I mean, just think about this for a second. The auditor's job isn't done when the spreadsheets are balanced. They have to read the whole report, including things like the chairman's letter. Can you imagine the chairman boasting about the company's best year ever, while the financial statements the auditor just signed off on show a massive loss? That is a gigantic red flag, and the auditor absolutely has to deal with it.
You know, this quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? Without this careful, meticulous final phase, all you really have is a messy collection of audit tests. This completion review is what transforms all that work into a single, coherent, and most importantly, a defensible professional opinion.
So, after running this entire gauntlet, after looking back, looking forward, checking everything against everything else, why? What is the whole point of all this intense, detailed work?
It all comes down to one thing: to form the final audit opinion. That's it. This is the auditor's ultimate conclusion, the professional judgment on whether the financial statements are true and fair. Every single step we've just talked about is designed to make sure that this final opinion is built on a foundation of solid rock.
So why does this final gauntlet matter so much? Because that opinion isn't just a piece of paper. Real people, investors, employees, lenders, they all rely on that opinion to make huge, life-altering decisions. This final process isn't about ticking boxes. It's about protecting the integrity of our financial markets and serving the public trust, one signature at a time. And that is what gives the auditor's work its true power and value.